It's two kind of white people. It's white people that love me and want everything to be fair, and then there's John Brown. So which one are you? It's that simple. I don't think you don't like me or you hate me, but are you willing to be John Brown for me?
Hey, what it do? This your partner, Ampu, a.k.a. the Union Soldier, man. I want to have some real conversation with you real fast. Salute to Killer Mike. Salute to this whole The Breakfast Club. That interview was crazy, phenomenal. Killer Mike dropped some game. So I played that clip because he's absolutely correct. That there are two ideologies, okay, that run this entire world, either good or evil, but inside of the soil of the United States of America, on this soil, it's either Confederate or Union, and we got to cut the bullshit. So when Killer Mike is talking about either these two type of white people, I'm like, oh yeah, we about to get into it. And he hit you with that John Brown, that abolitionist talk, you know what I'm saying? That needs to be looked at because there were white folks who banged and lost their life to get us free. So we got to understand that our worst state is called slavery, and our best state right now, freedom. Buy Back the Block, shout out to Ross, Diddy, Jay, Nas, Billy's, Khaled. You understand where we at right now to where we were? It ain't no comparison, man. So there's a spirit of freedom that is riding here. This place is all about the freedom. And we free. Now you're going to have some sucker ass niggas, I just got to keep it real, that's going to say, man, we ain't free. And that's a philosophical thing in a sense, but it's some sucker stuff to say in comparison to chattel slavery. Okay? So that's a whole nother conversation. So when Killer Mike is talking about John Brown, let's look at that. Who is John Brown? Abolitionist that says, listen, the only way slaves going to get free, I'm going to have to pick up a gun and we're going to have to go bang on these slaveholders. We're going to have to go bang on them, period. We got to shoot them. We're going to have to kill them. That's his mindset. So he's known for engaging inside of Bleeding Kansas. Now, Bleeding Kansas is the Civil War before the Civil War. I'm going to tell you this. I say it all the time. Please put down The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Put it down. You're not no Chinese philosopher. You need to understand the spirit, or what I present, or what I like to call the art of civil war, which got us free. We got to understand that, okay? So 1854 is Bleeding Kansas. Kansas, at this time, the Kansas-Nebraska Act is passed, 1854, and they say, hey, basically, we about to allow slaves in Kansas and the Nebraska territory. This overturns a previous law called the Missouri Compromise of 1819-1820. The Missouri Compromise says, hey, Missouri wanted to come in the Union as a slave state. Now, you got to watch the spirit because it's either two sides on this thing. You either down with the Confederates or you down with the Union. So Missouri says, hey, I want to come into the Union as a slave state. So the Union fought back and said, I tell you what, you know that eastern portion of Massachusetts? We're going to call that Maine. Maine is going to come in as a free state. Because at the time it was 11 free, 11 slaves. So if Missouri come in, it's going to upset the balance. So the compromise is we gotta create and bring in another free state. So that tells you that somebody is working on your behalf within government. Hello, I gotta say this shit, man, because ain't nobody saying this shit, and y'all aiming y'all shit at the wrong person. I gotta be very clear, at the wrong entity. Okay, so I'm gonna have to step up on behalf of the United States of America and Abraham Lincoln. I gotta do that. Okay, now, but they ain't 100% off the hook. Abe good. United States of America is not, and I'm going to get into that. Now, somebody's working on our behalf inside of the country that said, okay, Missouri, come in as a slave if you want to, slave state. We about to bring in Maine to bring in the balance. They're going to be a free state. This is chess. This is on the record. So then years later, and also in the Missouri Compromise, they said no slaves will be allowed above, 36 degrees north latitude. Okay, this is a fact. Somebody's coming in with the ideology and saying, man, this slavery shit's some bullshit. It ain't going up no further north than this, and it ain't going out to the Western Territories west of the Mississippi River. Okay? 1854 come Kansas-Nebraska Act. They're like, listen, man, that's unconstitutional. The United States of America, you have no right telling the state that they can't have slaves. States can decide for themselves what they want to do. So then they try to bring in slaves. And so now this creates a serious war. So at this time, the two opponents are the ones who want slavery are called border ruffians. And the ones who are against slavery are called Jayhawkers, hence the term in the basketball team, the Kansas Jayhawks. The Jayhawkers are John Brown. The Jayhawkers are Colonel James Montgomery from Ohio, who rode with Harriet Tubman and was giving her pistols and going to put this work in. Okay? So you had a pre-Civil War in 1854 that lasts for 7 years, 1861, which is the start of the Civil War. Now here's the thing. Killer Mike mentioned John Brown. This is a fact. John Brown is fighting on behalf of us, our family, our ancestors. Okay? Now, when you go read and figure out who was present at the hanging of John Brown, because they called him and they killed him. Because he went, at that time, the Civil War hadn't started yet, 1859. Harper's Ferry raid, they go take over the United States government shit at that time. Right? Stonewall Jackson, who later becomes pretty much the second most important general on the Confederate side in the Civil War. Okay? He's one of the people that's etched on Stone Mountain. Stonewall Jackson. Okay? He's there. And guess who else sneaks his ass up inside of there? Steals a uniform to be present to watch the hanging of John Brown. The guy who kills Abraham Lincoln. Okay? Facts. Facts, man. John Wilkes Booth. Confederates. These are facts. And so, this is 1859. In 2 years, 1861, is about to be the kickoff of the Civil War. Okay? Now, this is where I got to come in. Black History Month. Salute to my President, Chief and Staff, Abraham Lincoln. Black folks are the only suckers that argue the legitimacy of Abraham Lincoln's contribution, and it is wrong. And it explains the sickness mentally that we have, okay? But it's absolutely wrong because everybody in the world truly understands and give Abraham Lincoln the most successful president, one of the best humans to ever walk the earth. Abraham Lincoln is only second to Jesus Christ, man. Seriously. In world history. Seriously. Real talk. He's that great. You got to really look at the spirit of this shit. Right? Like this guy, they call it the rule of 41 when you have a quarter, a dime, and a nickel, which would be 40 cents. And they're all on a silver coin, and they're facing this way. And Abraham Lincoln is on the penny, and he's facing the other way. And yeah, but why it got to be worth a penny? And we start finding little mental sicknesses to justify suffering and why it's not right. But God darn it, this man is on a coin to represent the copper-colored people. Nobody had to do that. But it's real. Harriet Tubman is getting on a $20 bill. It's real. And we'll find a way to discredit it, which is a sickness. So anyway, coming back, Abe Lincoln was cold, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something what niggas do, and I'm gonna tear y'all up when y'all do it. Niggas like to discredit Abraham Lincoln, and the only thing they're gonna do is they're gonna run to two places. They're gonna run to the Stephen Douglas debates of 1858, right? 2 years before the election, and they're gonna find little quotes of Abraham Lincoln saying things like, I'm not for racial equality and trying to make the black race the equal of white men. They'll say things like that, but they won't read it in full context, where Abraham Lincoln will come right behind that and say, but there's no reason why the African race or the black race cannot enjoy the same liberties as white men. It's like a sword, a double-edged sword. Okay, even Frederick Douglass didn't even understand that about Abraham Lincoln. until Lincoln pretty much kind of put him in his place and told him, I ain't never said nothing that I retracted from. It ain't true. And Douglas had to think about it like, well, you're right. You did. Because this man was an attorney and he was playing games of semantics with people. Here's the question. In warfare, nobody wants to go to war. Black folks, listen, man, Detroit police can kick in the door, shoot a little girl, baby Ayanna, rest in peace, and then lie and say the mother grabbed the gun and be found guilty, or be found out that the mother's handprints are not even on the officer's weapon. The officer lying his ass off. You ain't going to war over that, man. You ain't going to war over Mike Brown. You ain't going to war over shit. Let's just keep it 100, and rightfully so. And I'm going to tell you something. Your ancestors was like that too in slavery. They weren't going to war. Clearly, they was not going to war. Let's be real. In the history of the United States of America, black folks didn't get free because all of us was Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and Harriet Tubman. And we led a successful slave rebellion like Haiti. We didn't do that. White people stepped in and came and got us out of that situation. And motherfuckers hate to admit that shit. And I don't know why. But when you fail to admit it, you are sick and you are a liar. And I just got to call it for what it is. Because I grew up listening to that kind of shit and believing that kind of shit. And it had me all misconstrued until I figured this shit out. All right? So saying that to say this. United States of America. Get off aid, because the second place they're going to go is to a letter that Abraham Lincoln wrote to Horace Greeley. And Abraham Lincoln, in one sentence, says, you know, if I could save the Union and not save one slave, I would do it. And he said, see, this was all about him saving the Union and not freeing black folks. And in the very next sentence, he said, and if I could save the Union by freeing all of the slaves, I would do it. And it baffles me because it's literally the next sentence and people choose to take one portion of the sentence. But you can just look at the man's action and see what happened. Okay? Now, Spirit is telling me to tell y'all, there were 2 war generals from the Union Army who actually issued emancipations, the freeing of slaves, before Abraham Lincoln did it as president. Okay, but that's a whole nother story. I'll say that, but just know that. Okay, so people would like to try to go run and pick on Abe, but here's the thing, and this was the question I was asking y'all. This is war. So before you go to war, how do you convince your neighbors to go to war? Like, really rewind time. You in racist ass United States of America at that time, because there's a new government that came in. George Washington and the founding fathers like Abraham Lincoln argued was against slavery. The Declaration of Independence was Abraham Lincoln's foundation and cornerstone to prove that slavery is bogus, and the founding fathers wasn't with that shit. And what a coincidence, George Washington and some of them as well started emancipating their slaves. Okay? Now, United States of America, okay? Got to be very clear about this. United States of America, at this time, racist. Got racist South. Illinois is even super duper racist. Especially Southern Illinois. Okay? Super duper racist. Can't even bring free black people into Illinois. If you got found bringing black people into Illinois with the purpose of trying to free them, you would be held in trouble. Like, it was against state law for black folks to be in Illinois at one time. Like, Illinois was vicious. Okay? And so how do you convince your northern neighbors, like, hey, I think we need to all go down south and shoot other white people? How do you convince white people down south that may not be for slavery and they're against it, if that even exists, to say, hey, I'm going to need you to pick up a gun and bang on your family member and your longtime friends because this is immoral? How do you pull that off? You can't pull it off. So what happened was the racial tension was so thick over slavery and through the form of debate, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas, and the new Republican Party, the new party that came, all right, the Republican Party was created to counter slavery. I'm not saying be a Republican, I'm just telling you the history, okay? I got a little spirit with this stuff, man, because even the vice president for Abraham Lincoln is Hannibal. Hannibal, you know, is an African war general, man. This shit is spirit. I'm trying to tell you, you know Hannibal is an African war general from Africa, But at the bottom of Illinois, they call all southern Illinois Little Egypt. Okay? So you got to understand how this shit comes overseas and it's really talking about you right now. Okay? Anyway, and so United States is thick. It's hard for you to convince somebody. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to stir the pot through dialogue and intense debate and principle of morality. Abraham Lincoln is standing on that square talking about this shit is bogus, it's wrong, slavery. So he wins the election. South Carolina was like, hey man, this nigga's serious. Abraham Lincoln's serious. I ain't got time to even stick around and try to fuck with this dude. Slavery about to be gone. Fucking with him. I know his viewpoint. And you start checking the records on Abraham Lincoln against slavery, oh, you're going to find some shit. Slavery's disgusting. I hate it as much as any other abolitionist hates it. He can't stand it. Okay? So South Carolina said, I tell you what, we're going to get on up out of here. We're going to leave and we're going to start our own thing. This is called the Battle of Fort Sumter, April of '61. So they see a merchant ship in the port in Charleston at Fort Sumter called the Star. The Stars is important. The Star of the West. And they like, yo, that's the United States boat right there. Fuck that. Let's shoot this motherfucker up. And they start shooting. Pop, 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 pop. They shooting it up. United States government gets hit first. This is chess. So now, United States government is in the form of, has to play defense, which is exactly what Abe needed you stupid ass Confederates to do. See, my tension is with Confederates, man. My shit is against Confederates. Stone Mountain, General Robert Lee, which, by the way, was leading the fight against John Brown that Killer Mike shot out, okay? Go look into it. General Robert Lee, head of the Confederate Army. Stonewall Jackson, his lieutenant in charge, basically. And Confederate President Jefferson Davis are the three men Confederates on Stone Mountain. But you gotta understand, y'all niggas be cracking me up, man. Y'all be swearing up and down y'all love Tupac, but y'all forgot 2 cops got shot while they off duty. My nigga Tupac. ATL, Georgia, state number 5. When it's time to ride, join the rebel side. Man, I ain't lying. The history coincide. You understand what I'm saying? Georgia went Confederate too. But Pac later would come Illuminati. Y'all talk all that dumbass Illuminati shit. Illuminati, nigga. You're not even the man if you're going to say white supremacy on fucking TV. How dare you in this day and time talk about white supremacy as if there is somebody superior to your God and the freedom that got your ass free and your ancestors free, and you ain't even living in that worst state condition, and you talking about white supremacy. You sound like a sucker. Sound like a bitch, man. Straight up. Real talk. Anyway, excuse my French, but you got to understand, this shit is man talk. So women, when y'all, like, this is, my passion goes towards, because this shit is like, it's a direct assault against my manhood is how I feel at the end of the day. And maybe that's egotistical, but I'm standing on the principle of right. Shouldn't be enslaving nobody. Whether you black and got white slaves, that's bullshit, man. So anyway, I'm going to come off the gas with this. Because the only thing we got to do is study the Civil War. My G, how you pronounce his name? I don't want to mess his name up. Mason, or my son, killed the motherfucker with his free. Rapper from New York killed that shit. Murdered that shit. But I'm listening and I'm hearing things which are partial facts. You know, are 40 acres in the mule. I went to Twitter and I told them 40 acres in the mule. If I say 40 acres, you're going to say mule. And then I say, well, what is it? You're going to automatically say, man, the government was supposed to give niggas 40 acres in the damn mule after slavery. Everybody know that. That's not true. That's one of those things. It's a partial truth. It's an urban legend. But it's not true. 40 acres in the mule come from Special Field Order number 15, written by my general from Ohio, William T. Sherman. who says, okay, he has a meeting with some slaves and some freemen, and they pick the pastor to speak for him and said, this is what we want to do. We're going to set up our own shit, man. Y'all done came through. Y'all done beat the Confederates' ass. Ain't no Confederates around here no more. All this land and these houses is empty that we've been tilling anyway. We want some of this. So he wrote an order, Special Field Order number 15, that basically says that the land from South Carolina on the coastline, Georgia, and Florida should be divided up not to exceed more than 40 acres. The word mule is not even in the freaking field order. It's not there, okay? You can go read the official field order. I ain't talking wiki. Go study the art of war, man. Study these cats' memoirs of what was going on. So for any coon-ass nigga gonna come just for the sake of trying to sound deep and want to say, well, they really ain't want to free us. They just did it as if it was some type of trick, or try to underplay that for any reason whatsoever, that person is in gross error. And when you're dealing with law, like you want to pick a jury, if we can see any flaw in your thinking, you're not qualified to talk about this. You disqualified. We got to select better. You understand what I'm saying? Because yet you're going to tell me it's not about slavery, but then when I'm reading these memoirs and shit, this shit is about slavery. It's bogus, man. It's absolutely bogus. So here's the kicker, and I'm going to come off with this, man. Because I said the United States of America is not 100% off the hook. This is what happened. See, let's rewind a little bit. You hear, like Jay just dropped and what is free. 3/5, I believe, is the phrase. And that's another partial truth. It's like, well, the United States government said we only 3/5 of a human being, and that ain't right. The United States, man, listen. That comes from what's known as the Constitutional Convention. You got to understand something. The country is officially the United States of America in, some say 1776 at the Declaration, 1783. That's when King George from England says, listen, I ain't fucking with y'all no more. We've been fighting for years. Y'all won. I give up. Fuck it. Go ahead. Be your own shit. 1783 Treaty of Paris, nigga. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Ye. Niggas in Paris. Y'all gotta see spirit, man. So anyway, it's official then. 4 years later, 1787, is the Constitutional Convention known as the Philadelphia Convention. They're having their meeting, and we're going to talk about setting up the new Constitution and the new law. In that meeting, they said there will be no slaves. The South gets pissed and say, what are you talking about? We ain't going to have no slaves. South Carolina, Virginia, and what are you talking about? We need slaves. Well, listen, in 20 years, you ain't going to be able to import slaves and bring them in from Africa, and you ain't going to be sending them out. That shit's bogus. We got to wrap this shit up. This is a new country found on new ideals and principles of liberty and freedom. Hence, Abe Lincoln used the very same argument and won that shit physically through war and through an election, through debates, obviously, because he became president. Okay? Know this shit. Okay? So, inside of that debate, it ain't going to be no slaves. This shit gets so thick that the South says, okay, we gotta work something out. And then the 3/5 compromise was given. See, how can you say in one breath, America wants to demean the Negro or the black man on purpose and making 3/5, but in the same conversation where the 3/5 was created in Philadelphia, Constitutional Hall, Constitutional Convention, they're saying it ain't going to be no more slaves. That don't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? They're saying no slaves, but then they want to make you 3/5. That is the South trying to hold on to their power and their slaves. The South will later break away from America. They'll break away from the red, white, and blue, which is the Crip and the blood. Okay? Which is the white is just the piece between us so we can unify and do our shit. Shout out to Nipsey. Shout out to YG. You got to see spirit. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to Game. Shout out to Snoop. This is what this shit is about. We got our shit aimed at the wrong person. You can't aim it at yourself, cuz. You can't aim it at yourself, blood. You can't. That's you. This is you. This is us. This Abe Lincoln. This is us. Kanye is showing you, when he had the jacket with the Confederate shit on, he's telling you where to aim the shit at. Y'all don't get... Listen to this. Watch the spirit. Kanye West went to a freaking high school called Polaris. Polaris is actually the North Star that the slaves watched to become free and followed at night to go up north and become free. And Kanye West names his baby North. This is spirit talking. This is God talking. Y'all all act like y'all fucking know God or in love with God or appreciate God, but it's like y'all don't really believe that shit at the heart. You don't. And yeah, I'm going to say the F-bomb with God as if God don't know you listen to trap music and you turning it down when you pulling up in the church and you about to light up a blunt as soon as you get out the parking lot. Fuck out of here, man. I'm tired of playing games and muting myself for this shit. Anyway, the real deal is you got Confederates and you got the United States government. So the 3/5 shit is mute. Throw that shit out the window. That's the slave boys. Dred Scott, 57? In the thick of bleeding Kansas. 1857, Dred Scott. Well, what about Dred Scott and niggas can't be slaves? Listen, man, there was a vote. What was it? 7-2. 7-2 that Dred Scott is not a nigga. 2 people said, Dred Scott is not a citizen. 2 people said that's bogus. That's one from Ohio again. Ohio is the illest. The general who was the head of the whole army for the United States government under Abe Lincoln when the Confederates folded was your General Ulysses Grant, known as President Grant, that's on a $50 bill. Shout out to 50 on the Stars Network. The Stars, 50 stars. Grant, 50 cents. Y'all gotta see spirit, man. Everybody is just minions of God down here, and you gotta know what the story is telling you. Everybody is a minion of God down here. Everybody's playing their part. Okay? So, where's I at here? Anyway, and so, totally lost my point. Oh, Dred Scott. 7-2 vote. We only need 3 to have the majority. Because then it would be 5-4. Okay, so we just need 3 to have the majority. We got 2. One from Ohio voted. Dred Scott is a citizen. You bugging. Another one who voted, he's the only judge to walk away from the Supreme Court and quit on the grounds of morality. He was like, man, this Supreme Court shit is so bogus. Y'all so racist. I quit. The only person to ever do that as a Supreme Court judge. Go look into it. So now let's just go look at 3 judges who voted against Dred Scott. Chief Judge Robert Taney, fuck you and everything you stand on. Clear racist, born into a slave-holding family. Facts. Facts. Another one, who is it? What's his name? Another judge, his name is slipping me at the time. He had slaves in Tennessee. Okay? He's actually sleeping with one of his slaves and had children by her, but I ain't gonna knock the interracial thing. We know you wanted that black pootie tang. It's all good. We do too. All right? So I ain't gonna knock it, but he was a slaveholder in Tennessee. Because that was Catron. C-A-T-R-O-N. Okay? And I want to say his name ain't Campbell, but it's another judge on there where he, at the start of the Civil War, 1861, this cracker said, I don't want to be a judge no more. I'm about to go fight for the Confederates. The Supreme Court, the buck stops here. Like, they get the last say-so. That's really, they supreme for real. They over the president, in my view. They get the last say-so on what's what. You can do what you want to do after that, but we telling you that this is what it is, and there ain't going to be nothing else said about it. You can do it, but ain't nothing else going to be said about it. Okay? He stops being a Supreme Court judge and joins the Confederate Army. So there go 3 votes right there that we could have had what Dred Scott could have won. Chief Judge Taney, slaveholder family. Catron, slaveholder himself. And another one, he goes and joined the Confederate Army. These are Confederates inside of the United States government, which leads me to my closing argument of why the United States is not off the hook. We got a serious problem in America, man. The biggest threat to America, democracy, and the republic ain't from anybody overseas. It's from racism within. And racism within took its ugliest form through the Civil War, known as the Confederates. Okay? Now, when the Confederates got that ass beat and they finally gave up in April of 65, okay? When they gave up in April of 65, guess who was born in 1865? The first Ku Klux Klan, okay? Which later became Jim Crow in the 1900s. And then Jim Crow all the way up to 100 years after 1865 is 1965. Martin Luther King, salute to the king. He's dead in 68, so that's 103 years after the Civil War, all the way up to King. So the Confederates are fighting back through Jim Crow and laws. We didn't stop them from coming in government. We still allowed them to come into government. Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet, who was riding with Robert Lee, conflicted soul, okay? I'll explain that in a whole nother thing. After the Civil War, he gets a job inside of the United States government down in Louisiana to be inspector of customs or some shit. Him and Grant they was friends. All of them was friends and fighting in the American-Mexican War before the Civil War. They was all fighting together. And then the Civil War came, they broke up, and friends started fighting friends upon principle of slavery, man. That's just the facts, Jack. So the problem that we have is Confederates, i.e. Mississippi, fuck you. Shout out to David Banner. That's why you see when he come out with the Confederate flag. Because Mississippi still got the Confederate flag in their state flag in the upper left-hand corner. You're an enemy combatant to the United States of America, and that's treason. At the time of the Civil War, you can't fly no Confederate nothing. You can have a memorial that's owned by the government, but at a place of government where you write laws and shit on city, in county level, city level, state level, no form of government where law is created and enforced or protected as courtrooms should a Confederate flag be at, period. You can have a memorial, fine, I understand that. But a place of government, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Because you're telling me that that's a symbol. Flags are very important in war. We know that shit through culture, but through war too, right? Like, that's very important. You're really signaling for future generations of Confederates to get back in power. And that's going to be dangerous, man. That's very dangerous. Very dangerous. You can have y'all memorials, you know what I'm saying? But the Kamala Harris's and Cory Booker's and, you know, salute to the first black attorney general, Eric Holder. Salute to the Union soldier. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, this is a serious offense right here. Serious offense. Confederate flag and KKK behavior.
Hey, shout out to my nigga Show Dog, man. I remember this growing up. Hey, shout out to all my Cali niggas and fuck you white Confederate KKK motherfuckers. Biatch! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Come on! Fuck Confederates! Pussies! Fuck Confederates! Biatch! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Pussies! Mississippi, you gon' take your flag down. David Duke, when I see you, that's a beat down. Banana clips and I'm spraying like 100 rounds. That's heat for your ass, cause it's going down. Shout out Selly, niggas from the hillside. That's the west side, take you where Pac ride. Huey Newton, we strapped and we shooting. That's a Black Panther shotgun, Cam Newton. What you doing? I represent the Union. That's Abe Lincoln, Confederates got ruined. Red, white, and blue and Crip walking, Sue wooing. Nipsey Hussle, YG, smoke 'em like a Cuban. Beefing up, niggas and institutions. Gang unity, that's the solution. Abolitionists wrote the resolution. Black excellence spells revolution. Get it? Hashtag black excellence. Revolt TV Diddy. Billy, try that Black Wall Street shit again and watch we hit you with the 9 milli. Free Meat Millie, Uncle Tom Judge acting silly. Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Come on! Fuck Confederates! Pussies! Fuck Confederates! Biatch! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates! Fuck Confederates!